At 29, I had a tough decision to make about where I wanted my life to go after experiencing a decade of hard work, night school, and my dad's verbal cruelty. My name is Nicola Malone. Follow along as I tell you what led me to where I am now. Please like, comment, and subscribe to help the channel. Leave a book emoji if possible, and tell me where you are in the world. It's great to know where everyone is who listens to these stories. My dad, Frank Malone, was once a man who filled rooms with light and laughter. Now, he fills them with the sour scent of stale cigarettes, cheap whiskey, days-old beer, and hurt. Unshaven, with eyes red-rimmed, Frank's days blurred together in a haze of television reruns and the clinking of bottles. He rarely left the battered recliner in the living room, only stirring when he needed the bathroom or when I brought home groceries or leftovers from the diner where I work. He used to call me Sunshine when I was a kid, but now his voice, always slurred and heavy, makes me cringe when he tries to recall my name. If I don't move fast enough for him, or if I don't remember to restock his supplies, he'd call me whatever came to mind, and it was usually something foul. And the smoke. I had to use the shower at my best friend's home often because the house's walls were saturated with the smell of nicotine. Even today, I absolutely hate it. Dad's life took a hard downturn when his wife, Pamela, my mother, left him for a rideshare driver who would give her free rides after her work hours at the diner where I now worked. It was a rough day for everyone when it was discovered that Mom was giving him free rides in his Tesla. Pamela divorced Frank and took all their savings, but she was the main contributor to the fund and could prove it. Dad was a lifelong construction worker, and Mom said she was tired of him going nowhere. The last straw happened when my father turned down another promotion, which was the fourth in 5 years. Mom timed her move from our home while we were all out for the day. Dad received court papers that evening, and he cried for hours. A week later, Dad was a depressed being, and I had had enough of seeing him that way. No one who stopped by could reach him, so I texted Mom to meet me at work before my shift because I wanted to understand why she hurt my father so deeply. That was the first thing I asked when she joined me at the counter, but she waited until she greeted the other waitresses she used to work with and took a sip of coffee before answering. I didn't. I warned him, Nicola, but Frank wouldn't listen. I told him over and over that he was pushing me away, and by the time Cole came along, I was edging with Frank. I never wanted to hurt him, but he didn't give a damn about hurting me, and he did every time he chose beer over me. I grew tired of begging him to spend 10 minutes with the family we created. So, what broke the camel's back? I asked. You were still with Dad in every way until the day you moved. Don't try to deny it, Mom. The bedroom you shared with him is right under mine. Mom said, he's 51 and is still the lowest man on the totem pole. The only thing he did well, at the end, was please me in the bedroom. I'm tired of familiar, and I need more, Nicola, Mom said when I asked her to reconsider. For years, I've had to be on my feet for 12-hour shifts 6 days a week, and it's getting to me. I've begged your father to change and grow, but all he wants to do is hang out with the guys and do whatever it is they do after work. You kids were all the responsibility he wanted, but in the end, he acted like he no longer wanted to be a father. He doesn't see me anymore, and now I don't see him. Cole is my future, and with him, I don't have to work if I don't want to, and I don't want to. 20 years on my feet is enough. Mom beamed. I'm going to start college in the fall, Nicola. My eyes bucked. College? For? She answered, I want to be a lawyer, but I'll do accounting for a day job while I earn my degree. I did the books for the diner, and now I think I can get a company job and make decent money for school. After I pass the bar, I'll save, retire, and see the world with Cole. With Frank, all I ever saw was the inside of that house and this diner. Well, I did have mini vacations when I gave birth, but who can count that as fun? Certainly not me. I remember going to Disney when I was 7 or 8. That was the only time we went, and I saved for years to afford that trip, yet I did not have any fun as an adult. I could have left your father at home. He took up with some other fathers, and they planted themselves in a bar for the entire 4 days while I chased after you and Timothy. I had no time for myself or with other adults and was more tired when I got home than when I left. I looked down and fiddled with my spoon. I'm sorry we were such a burden. Mom snorted. You wouldn't have been if your dad had participated in your upbringing. I'm sorry if this hurts your feelings, but I'm only telling the truth. Why do I feel like that's a lie? She shrugged. I can't control your thoughts. My mother stood and laid a bill on the counter. Take care, Nicola. Don't let this life catch you up as long as I did. She walked out and never looked back. That was 10 years ago, and I haven't seen or heard from her since, but for a while, I practically stalked her social media pages. Pamela Jean Malone, née Harmon, married Cole David Winley in a large ceremony 19 days after her divorce from Dad was final, and didn't ask me or my younger brother to attend. I did see on social media that she graduated and accepted an offer with a company in Denver, Colorado, and moved there soon after. She never even told us she was going and did not say goodbye, even in a text, so I blocked her on my accounts and changed my cell number. Over the next few months, I felt that responsibility had aged me far beyond my 19 years. I worked double shifts at Marcy's diner after Mom quit because Marcy and her husband, Dale, refused to replace Mom, and I soon understood what Pamela meant about being on her feet. No matter what shoes I wore, my feet ached something awful, and my apron was always stained. And that got me fined because Marcy and Chef Dale insisted that spotless waitresses meant that everyone cared about cleanliness. If only the customers knew what was happening in the kitchen. Several times, I had to pay $20 to get the apron cleaned. The other waitresses and I started covering the aprons in plastic wrap, which was far cheaper to buy than paying that overblown cleaning charge. Each night, I counted my tips at the kitchen table, setting aside just enough for the mortgage and bills, and quietly sliding cash into the chipped sugar bowl Frank never touched. I dreamed of escape, a small apartment, more night classes, maybe a life where my father wasn't a heavy anchor around my neck, but every morning I woke to the same routine. Coffee brewing, Frank muttering in his sleep, and an empty life I had to live to keep a roof over our heads. I missed Mom, but I resented her for leaving the way she did. Her vacant seat at the kitchen table depressed me more than anything. Upstairs, behind a closed door, lived my younger brother Timothy, who had mastered the art of invisibility. I was sure he listened to every muffled argument my dad and I had over money and his habits drifting through the floorboards. After every fight, I closed my eyes, willing my brother to rest before school and wishing for a life less complicated for him. Timothy graduated from high school, and for months after, he said he scrolled through job listings in faraway cities, imagining the quiet of a life apart from what was left of our family. He informed me when he was hired at a company doing construction jobs, which would often take him out of town. He'd be gone for months at a time, but when he returned to the house, he'd sleep, shower, and then disappear again. Timothy barely spoke to me and Dad. When confronted with my weary eyes or Frank's drunken ramblings, he turned up his music or left the house altogether. He resented the weight of our problems and built a wall of silence to keep them out. His absence was a shield and a punishment. I couldn't be mad at him for it. Inside, I felt the same. Timothy's story of escape began quietly, almost imperceptibly, like most things in our fading house on the edge of town. He kept almost every dollar he made from the out-of-town construction jobs. He was losing weight, so I knew he was skipping meals and that he was sleeping in his truck when he couldn't or wouldn't come to the house, and keeping his ambitions hidden behind his habitual silence. When I'd see him, it was usually at night when Dad was too drunk to notice him, and I was too exhausted to complain about whatever had my ire that evening. Timothy would enter the house with a bag of fast food and place $200 on the kitchen table. I'd give Dad $50, place $50 in my sugar bowl, and use the rest on a bill. I was getting closer to being able to do something other than be a waitress. 3 weeks after he turned 20, Timothy informed me that he had landed a contract with a startup constructing modular homes for disaster relief. His work ethic caught the eye of the founders, who offered him a partnership after seeing his knack for problem-solving and relentless drive. Timothy accepted, and he didn't leave in anger or with ceremony. He left quietly, dropping $1,000 in cash for me on the kitchen table, along with a "I'll keep in touch" as he moved to the door. After a small, quiet goodbye, Frank and I were left alone to navigate through life in the house. Now, I resented Timothy for being able to leave. I don't think Frank noticed that he was now gone, too. He barely noticed me, even though I was the one providing his food and cleaning behind him when he would go to bed. His favorite place was that old, cream-colored recliner that appeared to be on the verge of breaking down. It made creaking sounds whenever he moved in it, but somehow it was loyal to him. Timothy's absence felt final, and it left space where hope and loss intertwined, and the family he left behind began to sever because I was so tired of Dad's actions and exhausted from working at that diner. 8 days after his departure, Timothy sent a postcard from California with nothing but his new address and the words, "I made it." For 6 years, I sent Christmas cards to that address, along with small reports about me and Frank, and I'd usually get a card after the new year with just his signature under the lines that wished me a happy holiday. 2 years after he left, Timothy sent me a check for $10,000 with his card. I held the check in trembling hands, uncertain what it meant for the family, while Dad, upon hearing that I'd heard from his son, simply stared out the window, a heavy silence settling between us, making me realize that Frank missed Timothy, too. I opened a savings account and deposited that check, along with the money in the sugar bowl. I gave myself a year to collect enough to buy a used car and start classes at the community college. That summer, headlines in industry magazines named Timothy as one of the youngest millionaires in the region. I bought one and read with a growing smile. Timothy's stake in the company grew as the business boomed, and it was reported that his partner had died. Having no family, Guy Tipton left all his shares to Timothy, and after that, my little brother took the company in a new, successful direction. The article read that right after he changed the name to Enhancements by Malone, everything improved. Customers were happy, their work was exemplary, and they were reasonable with their costs, making word-of-mouth advertising work favorably for them. Timothy had expanded in every way in only 14 months. I was happy for my successful brother and prayed that he'd continue his accomplishments. There had not been another check from him, but I didn't care. I was happy he made it and wanted to congratulate him on his success, but when I sent the last Christmas card, it came back as undeliverable. I was hurt that he'd moved and didn't give me his new address, but felt he had a reason for doing so. 5 years after I started, I graduated from my night classes, with no one in attendance. When my name was called, I wanted to cry, but I fought it, grateful I finally had proof of my hard work and sacrifice. After the ceremony, rain traced patterns on my car's windows as I drove to the store and struggled to unlock the front door, arms full of groceries. I finally entered, grateful that the 10-year-old Chevy got me through another day. Frank was waiting, half awake, and said he wanted money for cigarettes. I handed him a few crumpled bills with a tight scowl. He had no clue that he was demanding money from a college graduate, nor how tired I was and had been for almost 10 years while supporting him and his disgusting habits. Later, Frank shuffled to the kitchen and set his half-eaten dinner on the table. He stared at it, like he wanted to say something, but instead, he moved to the fridge where he kept his precious beers. I wanted to scream, kick, and punish this man who acted like he could no longer function as a normal human being in any capacity. But the feeling passed as I watched him drown in the next drink while staring blankly at the TV from that revolting recliner. After cleaning up the kitchen, I sat on the porch steps, watching the rain, and wondered how long I could keep holding the pieces together. I woke on my 29th birthday and literally stared at myself in the mirror. I looked 40. Mom had been gone for 10 years, and Timothy for 7. I was still a waitress and worked shifts like my mother had. Marcy and I had a huge fight the previous night. She had informed me that she had changed her mind about me taking the day off. I reminded her that I had requested to have my birthday off 6 weeks before, and when I refused to say that I'd come in, she fired me. Exhausted, I laughed right in her face, tossed my apron on the floor, and walked out of the diner in the middle of another 12-hour shift. When I got home, I dropped on my bed and cried, terrified I'd never find another job. I only had enough in the bank for the next 4 mortgage payments. There were just 2 years left on that bill. Then Dad would fully own the house, so we couldn't lose it now. I spent the next 4 hours trolling want ads. I found 3 jobs I was qualified for, so I applied online and made a note to call them after 9 in the morning. After my shower, I ached for a cup of coffee. As it brewed, my phone rang unexpectedly, and Timothy's name flashed on the screen. After years of silence, I hesitated before answering, bracing myself for whatever news he might deliver. Timothy's voice was softer than I expected. "Hi, Nick," he said. "Happy birthday. How are you?" "Thanks, Tim. I'm good. Are you okay?" "I couldn't be better." Timothy asked, "So is Dad still being Dad? How much is he up to now?" "I'm not sure, but he's always broke, and he wears the same clothes every day. He only moves when he finally smells himself or I complain. Nicola, get him some help before he kills himself." I've tried, but he figures out when they'll arrive, cleans himself up, and insists he doesn't have a problem. And as soon as they're gone, he's right back at it, I bet. Timothy scoffed into the phone. "What are your plans for today, Nick?" I sighed. "I'm going to look for a job. Marcy fired me last night, so I need to find another. I can't let Dad lose the house when he's so close to owning it outright." "You were fired? After over 10 years of service?" "I was, because I told Marcy that I wanted today off. I asked for the day over a month ago, but she took it back and said there's no way she could afford not to have me on a Friday night, birthday or not." "And your classes? Did you ever start those, Nick?" "Started and finished. I earned a BA in software development 4 months ago." "Then why were you still waitressing?" "I couldn't let Dad fall behind, and there's no one hiring here. I completed an internship and they offered me a position, but they decided to sell the company. The new owners cut half the staff and brought in their own people. I've been in a rut since. I applied for several jobs at other restaurants last night. Hopefully someone will call before the savings dry up." "Nicola, no. It's time to let Dad do what he wants and figure out how to take care of himself. You've done enough, and now you need to take care of yourself. Move to California. I'll give you a good job with benefits. You need a fresh start far from the old house and its sorrows. That place has never been the same since Pamela left us, and now I want you to think about yourself for once." For the first time since he left, hope flickered at the edge of my exhaustion, a promise of something better, if only I was willing to let go. "I understand, but this house, 28 years of paying for it, and I'm supposed to just let it go into foreclosure? Where's Dad going to live?" My lips trembled, caught between loyalty and the pull of something new. The weight of responsibility pressed on me, but the thought of California, a place where I could breathe, where my skills might finally be valued, was tempting. I wanted to believe I could start over, that Dad would understand, even if it meant letting go of a dream that wasn't really mine to carry anymore. I thought of us after Mom left. At first, we moved around each other like ghosts, Frank dependent, me dutiful, Timothy absent. The house held secrets and silences, and the air was thick with things unsaid. Yet, every so often, in the hush before dawn, I thought I heard footsteps from Timothy's room, and Frank, in the fog of half-sleep, whispered a thank you he'd never say while awake. Some families break loudly, with shouts and accusations. The Malones drifted apart quietly, 3 shadows under one roof, each longing for release in their own way. Timothy found his way by leaving. Dad searched for his in a bottle. As for me, I clung to old routines, hoping that by holding everything together, I could keep us from unraveling completely. But the truth was, the house had become a monument to what we'd lost, a place where memories lingered, but happiness rarely did. I wondered if staying was really loyalty or just fear of the unknown, and whether leaving might finally give us all permission to heal. Change was frightening, but staying felt like surrender. For years, I convinced myself that sacrificing my ambitions was noble, that my duty to Dad outweighed my own dreams. Yet, deep down, I knew my life couldn't begin until I let go of the guilt and let myself move forward. Maybe California was more than just a job offer. It could be the freedom I never allowed myself to have. Leaving wasn't just about me. It might be the only way Dad and I could finally begin again. California shimmered in my imagination, not just as a place, but as a possibility. I pictured sunlit mornings where responsibilities that weren't necessarily mine didn't weigh me down, where I could rediscover myself apart from the shadows of this house and family history. Maybe, just maybe, the distance could help all of us see the past for what it was and the future for what it could be. I sat at the kitchen table, with my fingers wrapped around a chipped mug, when Timothy started up again. "You're thinking about it, aren't you?" Timothy asked gently. "California, the job. I know it's a big leap, but Nick, you deserve more than this life you're living." I sighed, my gaze fixed on the window. "It's not that easy. Dad's not himself anymore, and I can't help but feel like leaving would mean abandoning him. You've given up years for him. You kept that house running, but he needs to figure things out on his own now. My company's growing. We need staff we can trust. You've got way more grit and skill than half my crew." I smiled, bittersweet. "You really think I'd fit in a construction company?" "I know you would," Timothy replied. "I have spots open on the corporate level, and here you can start fresh and finally do something for yourself, not just survive. Dad will have to step up or get help. You can't fix him, Nicola, but you can change your life's direction for the better." I shook. "If I go, and he falls apart," Timothy soothingly said, "we'll help if he asks. But he's got to make that call himself. You can't keep sacrificing your future for his past. Come out west, Nick. Let yourself breathe." I met Dad's eyes, hope flickering in my chest. "Let me think about it, okay?" "Take all the time you need," Timothy said softly. "Just promise me you'll think about what you want, not just what Dad needs." For the first time in years, I felt the possibility of freedom and wondered if Timothy was right. Maybe it was time to choose myself. 4 days later, I sat on the rickety couch across from Dad and told him my decision. "Dad, I am leaving." Dad stared at the TV as he slurred. "Another shift, huh? See if they have any of that pie I like with the cream on top. Bring a big slice home. And I'm low on Crown Royal. 3 bottles this time, and while you're there, you might as well stock up on my cores." He shook his cigarette box. "Cigs are low, too." I gave him the carton of Salem's I bought the day before, and all he did was nod and light up another cigarette. Sighing, I sat and tried again. "I lost the job at Marcy's 5 days ago, Dad. She fired me the day before my birthday." "Happy birthday." He belched and puffed that cigarette. I silently watched him pour whiskey into a dirty cup and take a healthy swallow. "Dad, you're not listening to me. My birthday was 4 days ago. It's now September 10th. He didn't answer. Instead, he sat back and started nodding off. I shook my head when his freshly poured drink started dripping on the floor, and the cigarette dropped to the floor. "Damn it," I snapped, stomping out the lit cigarette. "Dad, listen to me. Wake up and pay attention." Dad startled and shouted. "What, girl?" I said, "Happy birthday. What more do you want?" He looked at his half-empty cup and poured more liquor into it. My trembling voice said, "Dad, look at you. I can't do this with you anymore. I'm tired of being the one who keeps things together while you drink and fall apart. Timothy's offered me a chance to start over in California, and I'm taking it. I'm leaving in a few days. Someone is coming this afternoon to take you to the rehab center downtown. You need to clean yourself and get ready for a 30-day stay." Frank's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. "Don't you dare walk out on me, you ungrateful little bitch." He slurred. "You think you can just run off and leave your father behind?" I shook my head. He was already drunk, and it was only 10 in the morning. "I'm not running off, Dad. I'm choosing myself for once. You need help, but it's not my job to fix you. I did enough by getting you a bed in that center. Now, you have to walk across its threshold." Frank's voice rose, hurt and anger mixing. "You're my daughter. It's your job to stay and take care of me and this house. You owe me that much. Damn you. Does being your father mean anything to you? Or do you not care, just like that former son of mine?" My eyes burned with tears as I answered. "I have to go, Dad, or I'll go insane with this routine. If I stay, I will only resent you as much as I do Pamela. Is that what you want, Dad?" Frank's lips parted, his voice hushed and rough. "So, you're just leaving me behind? Why do you all want to leave this home and me behind?" I steadied myself, feeling the ache in his words. "I can't put my life on hold anymore. I need to see who I am outside of here. I want to love you without losing myself. Frank's expression darkened, a storm gathering in his eyes. He stood abruptly, fists clenched at his sides. Go ahead then, you fucking loser. See how far you get on your own, he spat, his voice laced with bitterness. California isn't going to fix what's broken inside you. Don't come crawling back when you realize you're nothing without me. He stepped closer, his presence almost menacing. You think you can erase all this history by running away, Frank slurred, his breath hot and menacing. I won't forget this, slut. You might find out the world isn't as forgiving as you hope. And neither am I. I sighed and said, You're drunk at 10:16 on a Tuesday morning, Dad. You need help, and that's something I can't do for you. Go to rehab, get admitted, and work on getting sober. When's the last time you saw a doctor? Frank's face contorted, torn between fury and a flicker of desperation. His voice cracked, softer yet pleading. What am I supposed to do if you leave? You and Timothy were the only good things I had left, and now he's gone, and you want to run after him. Or are you running away with some dumb fuck who only wants to lay you in the back of his car? He staggered, gripping the chair to steady himself. You're just like that bitch of a mom of yours, leaving me when I need you most to be with some ass you picked up at that damn diner. I held his arm. Dad. No, he roared, snatching away. I don't need any of you. Get out. Don't take anything I ever bought you, and get out of my house. Dad, there's nothing in here that you bought, outside of that recliner. Look around. I even bought that TV you stare at, and what stares at you when you've passed out from drinking yourself into a stupor. Don't you remember the other one broke after you threw a bottle at it on your wedding anniversary 3 years ago? I touched his shoulder, but he snatched away again and backhanded my jaw. I screamed and held my face as I stared at him in disbelief, and the look on his face told me that he did not regret the strike. He'd done it on purpose. I backed away from him. Frank moved his recliner in front of the door and sat in it. Like I said, you're not leaving. Stupid move. I could easily go out the back door. I scolded myself. The bolt on the back door broke right before Timothy left, and Dad never fixed it. I cursed myself for never taking care of that myself. Holding my painful jaw, I went to the kitchen and called Lisa, my best friend since high school, who had been begging me to leave that house since I told her that Timothy had gotten away. Late talks with her are what kept me sane all these years. Hey you, Lisa cooed. You want to go out tonight? Don't worry about money, Nick. The night's on me. I hated that she was so cheerful, and hearing it made me cry. No, Lisa, but I think I need to crash on your couch for a night or two, I whimpered. Is Parker there by any chance? He is, but… Nicola, what's wrong? Timothy called me on my birthday. He asked me to move to California, and I told him I'd think about it. This morning I decided to accept and told my dad. He called me several awful names, then hit me. Now he's blocking the front door. She asked, blocking it? I sobbed. He moved that stupid recliner in front of it and is now sitting in it. Lisa asked, You can't go out the back door? I sniffed. No, we never got that bolt fixed. There's only us here, and I need to pack. What if he tries something worse? Right, Lisa sighed. Parker, go to Nick's and escort her away from there. She's going to California, but her dad is trying to stop her. He struck her. Tell her 3 minutes, Parker answered. Lisa stayed on the phone with me. Soon I heard sirens. Parker was a police officer, but I didn't know he was on duty. Banging started. I heard my father shouting for whoever it was to go away, then Parker's strong voice announced, Sheriff's Department. Open the door. My cell beeped with Timothy's name. I ended my call with Lisa and accepted. Tim, I whispered. Hey, Nick. Made up your mind yet? I sniffed. Yeah. I decided to go, and told Dad. He hit me, Tim. My brother snapped. Hit you? Backhanded my face. I confirmed. The chimes went off on my phone, and suddenly, I was looking at my brother's face. He looked like the 26-year-old man he now was, only angered. Show me, he demanded. I turned my face, and he inhaled at my red and swollen face, and said, Leave now, Nick. Don't worry about clothes, money, or anything. I'll get you an e-ticket, and when you arrive, I'll send you shopping for everything you need. Grab your purse and leave." "I can't." After the slap, he moved that recliner to block the front door. Parker is here trying to get Dad to open the door, but he's resisting, and they're now shouting at one another. "Dad is so drunk, Tim." His jaw tensed. "Nick, listen to me. You have to get out." "Back door?" "No," I sighed. "It's still bolted shut from years ago. He never fixed it, but even if I could go out that way, my purse is in the living room with my wallet and ID in it. I won't be able to board a plane without it." "Damn it," Timothy muttered. "You can get another ID and a debit card today. Right now, you need to get out of that house. Is there a window you can climb out of?" I glanced around, heart pounding. Maybe through the kitchen window, but it's a tight squeeze. I don't want to leave Parker alone with Dad like this." He shook his head, his voice low but urgent. "There's not much you can do, Nicola. Just get somewhere safe and call me when you're out. I need you out of harm's way." I nodded, the fear and adrenaline warring inside me, but Timothy's steady voice gave me courage. I don't think he heard me when I said I had arranged for a rehab center to pick him up later. "See if Parker can get him to clean himself up and claim that bed." Timothy's face softened. "I can't believe he's wasted this early in the morning." "Go on, Nick. I'll talk to Parker." I crept toward the kitchen window, determined to get out of there, even if it meant leaving everything behind. With trembling hands, I unlocked the kitchen window and eased it open, wincing as it creaked. The cool mid-morning air rushed in, mingling with the stale tension in the house. Parker's demanding voice echoed from the porch, loud, hard, and angry. I hesitated, torn, but Timothy's words echoed in my mind. "Get out of harm's way." I heard a crashing sound and looked through to the front of the house. Dad was on the floor, the door on top of him, and Parker was pulling handcuffs from his trousers while giving Dad his rights. More sirens sounded, and I soon heard feet pounding up the front stairs. Parker got Dad cuffed and answered his cell. I slowly approached them, hearing Parker reassure Timothy that he had the situation under control with the other officers. My father, breathing heavily, glared at me as I grabbed my laptop bag, purse, and shoes. I slipped them on while watching him, shook my head, grabbed my keys, and pulled all my important documents from the locked drawer in the bureau. I checked my wallet and was relieved that everything was in there. I jingled the keys Dad's way and dropped them on the table. I didn't want anything of his. I was done with my own father. I took one last look around the house, letting the memories flash by, every argument, every uneasy silence, every small hope that things would get better, but this time, I refused to let guilt or fear hold me back. I wasn't going to stay out of obligation anymore. Steeling myself, I wiped away a stray tear and stepped into the hallway, breathing in freedom for the first time in years. My footsteps echoed softly on the floor as I moved past the old photographs lining the walls, each one a reminder of the fractured moments that had led to this day. With every step, I felt my resolve strengthening, carrying me out of the shadows of the past and toward the unknown future. I glanced back only once, not for regret, but to mark the end of this chapter, knowing I was finally choosing myself. Silence hung between us, heavy and unforgiving. For a moment, Frank looked as if he might say something more, but the words never came. I felt the finality of my decision settle in the air, painful, but necessary. I could no longer live like this, and he needed help that I couldn't provide. Without another word, I moved through where the front door used to be, the weight of years lifting from my shoulders as I went down the front steps. I FaceTimed Timothy, letting him know I was out with my things. "Go straight to the airport, Nick. I have everything ready for you here. My driver will meet you and drop you off at the hotel. We'll meet for breakfast and then go shopping. After, I'll give you a tour of where you'll be working." I drove to Lisa's and had her take me to the airport and told her she could do whatever she wanted with that car after I sent a thank you to Parker. I gave her the title after I hugged her and thanked her, too. An hour later, I dropped the back of my head against my seat, watching the endless stretch of clouds glide by from my first-class seat on the plane. For my first flight, I was surprisingly relaxed, But what else could I be after the life I led for the past 10 years? At 29, I felt both too old and too young for the life I was leaving behind, the one defined by fear, uncertainty, and the clinking of empty bottles. Dad's anger, fed by alcohol, had been the soundtrack of my life since the day Mom left him, and only I was left to pick up the pieces of his broken life. But tonight, as the city lights of St. Louis flickered away behind me, I dared to imagine a future that didn't revolve around survival. Timothy, my younger brother, promised that for me with him in California. He sent me a text after I checked in. "You're doing the right thing, Nick. We'll talk after you arrive." The message was simple, but it held a world of possibilities. I couldn't wait to begin my new life. The California sun was shining brightly when I stepped off the plane. I walked through the airport looking for someone who held a card with my name on it. Timothy was there, leaning against a gleaming black pickup, sunglasses hiding his sharp blue eyes. He looked different, confident, prosperous. I was surprised when he hugged me. He hadn't since he was 8 years old. "Welcome to your new home, Nick," he said, voice warm. "Let's get you settled." Timothy insisted that I needed a spa day, and after that, his assistant was taking me shopping. He had instructed her that she was to buy all I needed and more, and he was still looking forward to breakfast with me. "I was going to send David, my driver, but I wanted to see you." I missed you, sis." Smiling, I nodded. "I've missed you since you disappeared in your room." We climbed into the truck. "I know. I handled that wrong, but Dad, I couldn't take it anymore with him. I saw him, knew he was crashing, and I just assumed that you were going to follow in his footsteps." "I didn't," I assured him. "I have wine on occasions, and that's it. I prefer water, or a good kombucha." Timothy laughed. "You'll fit in well here." I turned on my phone. No calls, no messages. I sent one to Lisa, letting her know I had arrived safely. She sent me happy emojis with one word: enjoy. I stared out of the window as Timothy drove. I felt his hand squeeze mine and looked his way. "He's fine," Timothy sighed. "Parker dropped him off at the rehab, and they admitted him right away. He said Dad broke when you left and begged him to help before he did something to himself." "What's he going to do if he finishes the program successfully?" "Don't worry about it, Nick. Concentrate on bettering yourself." Timothy had arranged everything for me: a spacious apartment with tall windows and a gorgeous view of the city, a job as a cybersecurity analyst and quality assurance tech for his company, and all of that was done after he purchased a closet full of new work and casual clothes, and that wonderful spa day. I was overwhelmed by his generosity, but more than that, by the quiet understanding in his eyes. Timothy never pushed, never pried. He gave me space to heal. I was overwhelmed by it all, and thought several times that I was in a dream and would wake up at any moment. Still, the first few days were hard. My nights were haunted by memories of my father's slurred yelling, the sound of glass breaking, and the memory of him slapping me. But each morning, the California air felt a little lighter. At work, I soon realized Timothy's reputation was well-earned. His employees respected him for his fairness and vision. Under his guidance, I found myself learning quickly, earning the trust of the other executives, and even enjoying the work. One evening after a dinner with Timothy, I stood on my balcony, watching the sun set over the Sacramento skyline. Timothy joined me with 2 mugs of tea in hand. "I never thought I'd get out," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Timothy set his mug on the railing, his expression serious. "You did, Nick. You made it. You're not alone, and you're thriving." I believed him. I was building something new here, a life filled with hope, purpose, and the steadfast support of my brother. The scars of my past were still there, but in the golden light of California, they began to fade. As the weeks turned into months, I grew stronger. I took on more responsibility at work, made new friends, and started exploring the city. Timothy remained my anchor, but I was finding my own way. The woman who had boarded that plane was wounded, but the one who greeted each new day in California was healing. I knew her journey wasn't over, but she was no longer running. With every sunrise, I was claiming my independence, one day at a time, and finally allowing myself to dream. Timothy hosted a 30th birthday party for me, and a week before, he flew Lisa out for the occasion. When she arrived, we had one of our legendary sleepovers in my apartment, and the next day, she went into the office with me. Sparks flew between her and Timothy, and that evening, she confessed that something was brewing with them and she wanted to pursue it. I had no problem with it. I met Timothy's lead attorney 2 days before the party. Dantrell Jacobs was a soft-spoken man who carried himself with confidence and had strong, deep brown eyes. His smooth brown skin gleamed from a healthy lifestyle. I was immediately smitten and invited him to my party when he casually said he was single and didn't drink. Dantrell proposed during my 31st birthday dinner with Timothy, Lisa, and my new friends, and I accepted. Timothy announced he was paying for everything after his congratulations and hired a coordinator the next morning. 3 days before the wedding, I stared at my radiant wedding dress and admired the custom-made strapless white ball gown, and when I tried it on at the dress shop, I cried with happiness. Timothy and Lisa were with me, and both said that I had chosen well, meaning the dress and the man. I agreed. I knew Dantrell was the one for me before I gave him my virginity, a month after we started dating. He was more than caring that night, and I didn't hesitate to tell him that I loved him. He said the same to me. The doorbell rang at my apartment. I hurriedly shut the closet door in my bedroom, thinking it was Dantrell arriving after picking up his mom from the airport. I rushed to the entry door and smiled widely before opening it. Nicola, Pamela Jean Harmon Malone Winley cooed, with a wide smile of her own. Mine immediately dropped. The air grew tense as Pamela stepped forward, her expression tight despite the smile, and her eyes brimmed with conflicting emotions. "What are you doing here?" "You're getting married, sweetheart." "Where else would I be?" I glared at her and scoffed. "Sweetheart?" I had not seen my mother in 12 years. "How did you know? How did you even find me?" She walked into my apartment and looked around. "Oh, all that doesn't matter, my love. I'm here now and can't wait to hear you say your vows." I shook my head, watching her touch the crystal flowers that Timothy gifted me for my birthday, and noted that she was not dressed like a successful businesswoman. Pamela wore a casual gray dress that was 2 sizes too big for her, and black kitten heels that had seen better days. She had dyed her hair red at some point, but there was about 3 inches of brown in that roughly made ponytail. And there was a tear on her black blazer's shoulder, and the black leather purse that hung on her shoulder had several strands of thread showing all over. All were expensive items, but were now worse for wear. I closed my door and crossed my arms. "Is your husband with you?"
"No."
"Alex is resting at the hotel," Pamela said absently, still casing my home. I frowned. "Alex."
She turned to me.
"You said my husband, right?" "Yeah, Cole." "Cole," she laughed, nervously rubbing her neck. "That was over a year after the marriage. I married Alexander Denby 2 years ago." "What happened with Cole?" "Well," she sighed, staring at the floor. "He stuck around long enough to steal my signing bonus and the cash I was saving. After he was gone, I discovered we weren't legally married. His second wife never filed the signed papers, so I met Alex during a night out with friends. He's a construction worker," she laughed. "Can you believe that, Nicola? I married another guy in construction." I found nothing funny. "Why are you even here, Pamela?" "There's no need to be rude, Nicola Aaron," she snapped. "You know why I'm here. I can't believe you didn't tell me about your wedding. I had to hear it elsewhere." "That still doesn't explain why you're here. You weren't invited to either of the events, Pamela Jean, because I haven't seen you in 12 years and had no idea where you lived. I am your mother, so I have the right to be here, invitation or not." She pointed to the enlarged engagement photo hanging over my sofa of me and Dantrell. "That's who you're marrying?" "Yes, that is my fiancé, Dantrell Benjamin Jacobs."
"And?" She scoffed.
"What kind of name is Dantrell?" Shaking her head, she snapped. "I can't believe you want to marry someone like that. Did you even think about Frank? Or Timothy?" I replied, "Frank's opinion doesn't matter, and neither does yours. You've been in the wind for 12 years, and Frank is God knows where, probably holed up in a shithole with a bottle." And don't worry about Timothy. He supports our union. Her eyes went cold. Your father is not going to like that for a son-in-law. His circle will talk. Angered, I responded, if you didn't care about talk when you skipped town with Cole. And the last time I saw Frank, he was still trying to put his life back together. Dantrell is going to be my husband in 3 short days, and I cannot wait to spend my life with that strong, caring man. Our happiness will not depend on anyone's approval, including yours. Pamela shouted. Nicola, think. Have you thought about your future children and what they'll endure because you and he want to be selfish? I scoffed. Selfish? Woman, that is a lot of nerve. Pamela snorted. The past is not important right now. This isn't what I wanted for you. I snarled. You no longer have a say in anything involving my life. I built a beautiful one without you. Dantrell loves me for me, and that's what matters. If you can't accept that, fine. Again, you were not invited to our festivities. Glaring, Pamela demanded, don't treat me like I'm a stranger during an important time in your life. I had only one daughter, and I wanted to share this with you, Nicola. But now, after seeing that picture of the 2 of you, I'm thinking this marriage is not a good idea. Then why haven't you left? I pointed. There's the door, Pamela. I still have to tell you why I'm here now. I needed to speak to you in private before the wedding. Alex, my husband, was injured at work. We're struggling. Can you get Timothy to help us out financially? He'll listen to you. I lost all train of thought for several moments. You're not here for me. You came for money. You weren't around when I needed help, and you selfishly turned your back on all 3 of us to live your life the way you wanted. Why should I even think of asking Timothy for anything regarding you?
She sighed.
Nicola, please. I'm desperate. Alex can't work. He was intoxicated at work, so he doesn't qualify for assistance, and the company he worked for won't help either. I lost my job a year ago due to cuts, and that benefit ends in a month, though it was barely enough for us to survive. We're about to lose everything. I scoffed. I'm sorry for Alex, but this isn't the time or my responsibility. You can't just appear and expect us to fix your life.
Don't contact me again.
Dantrell and I will take joy in having his approving mother as our children's only grandmother. I held open the door. Take care, Pamela. With a strong huff, my mother walked out. I took several calming breaths, betting she didn't remember saying that parting line to me 12 years ago. Staring at the crystal flowers that were illuminated by the soft afternoon sunlight filtering through the window, I asked him to come to my place for an important talk. It had been a long time since we'd talked about our mother, whose absence had left a void in our lives for more than a decade. 20 minutes later, Timothy arrived, and I led him to my kitchen. I took a deep breath, my voice trembling slightly as I began. Tim, Mom just left here. Pamela. He looked beyond surprised. Here? I didn't know you invited her. I didn't, I insisted. I don't even know how she found me. I made us glasses of ice water. Timothy was thinking deeply as he grabbed one of the cinnamon rolls I had baked for breakfast. After a bite, he murmured, perhaps the website. I'm on there, of course, and so are you. She must have Googled your name and found us. So, go on. Tell me what she wanted. What did she have to say? The first thing she did was insult Dantrell. She's never met him, but that didn't stop her. She seems to think that because he's African American, it's a bad choice to marry him. Timothy, those blue eyes of hers were flashing like strobe lights while she ranted. My brother scoffed. If that's not nerve, I don't know what is. I snorted and told him. Well, let me give you another example. After giving me her horrendous opinion on my future marriage, out of nowhere, she asked me to tell you that she needs money. Her husband, not Cole, had an on-the-job injury and is now disabled. She's broke, not working, and claims to be losing everything. Timothy looked down at his hands. The silence stretched as he struggled to find something to say. I can't believe she would do that, he finally replied, his voice soft but steady. After all these years, you'd think she'd at least try to reconnect without any drama. If ever there was a case for 2 wrong feet.
He frowned at me.
Not Cole. I explained what Pamela told me, and Timothy smirked. I'm not giving her a dime. I worked hard to be where I am today, without any help from her. That woman left us, and before I was an adult, and never looked back until she needed something. Like us, she'll have to figure it all out on her own. I nodded my agreement. Well, here's hoping that Mr. and Mrs. Alexander Denby will have a solution soon. Timothy lifted his glass when I did, but froze before tapping it with mine. He stared at me, his eyes growing cold. Pamela Denby, he muttered. I suppose that's the name she's using now.
No, Nick.
Alexander K. Denby sued our company for an on-site accident. He broke his leg in 3 places because he was too drunk to pay attention to where he was walking. He claimed that precautions weren't taken for the workers, but his immediate supervisor saw the whole thing and, thankfully, filled out an incident report before the ambulance arrived. It got to my desk when Denby was admitted. What does Pamela have to do with it? She's an attorney now and was his co-counsel in the lawsuit, Pamela J. Denby. He snorted. That was a few months ago, and I think that's how she found you. And that case, dismissed. Too many people saw him drinking, and that's why the supervisor was near him. Jones never saw him take a drink, so to attempt to keep the others safe, he put him on light duty. Denby tripped on a wet paintbrush that he dropped, and that somehow made him break that leg. Pamela, or the other lawyer, had to research the company when they filed the suit, and I guess contacting you was the contingency plan. She sounded desperate now, Timothy. Nick, I paid his hospital bills, even though he had been the one at fault for his accident. Whatever was happening with him started before then, and she made her intentions clear when she walked away with Cole and didn't look back. That is what I'm going to do now. If you want to give her money, that's between you and Dan. I'm done. As we sat in the bridal suite of the chapel, an artist painted my face. Lisa, Maggie, and Mailing, 2 of my newest friends from work who were my bridesmaids, stood in front of my dress in awe while the designer steamed it one last time. We heard screaming from the hall, and I abruptly stood when it sounded closer and tightened my robe. The wedding planner, Harry, held his hand up and opened the door. Pamela, dressed in a gown that matched the bridesmaids' dresses, entered, and she was red, angry, and swearing a mile a minute. Madam, please, Harry called. That language is inappropriate and uncalled for. Harry looked at his frazzled young female assistant and asked, Laurie, what is going on? Sorry, Harry, but Mrs. Denby is not on the list, and she refuses to leave. How dare you not put my name on the guest list, Nicola Aaron? Why wouldn't you after I've traveled all the way from Iowa just for this? Iowa, I asked. You were supposed to be in Denver. People move, Nicola. I have twice in the last 2 years alone. I shook my head. For the last time, Pamela, you were not invited to my wedding. Please leave, and don't ever contact me again. I am your mother, she screamed. Don't you dare talk to me that way. Dressed in a tuxedo, Timothy rushed in and demanded, What is going on in here? Pamela turned to him and scoffed. And who the hell are you to ask? I shook my head. Pamela didn't recognize her own son. He was 15 when she left, and now, at 28, he had changed profoundly, but it wasn't impossible to identify him. Timothy was no longer a lanky kid struggling to understand all the changes his body was making. He was now a man in every way, mentally and physically, and his confidence radiated no matter where he was. Timothy stared at our mother with the same blue eyes as hers. Look at me and try to figure that out yourself, Pamela. And when you do, use better language in this church. I watched them have a stare down until it finally dawned on Pamela that it was Timothy standing in front of her. Her eyes widened, and her hand covered her mouth. Timothy Franklin Malone. My son, Pamela whispered. I think that's only true biologically, my little brother smirked. Why are you here and causing havoc on the most important day of my sister's life, Pamela? Your sister, she scoffed. I see both of you have decided that I'm to be disrespected, even though the 2 of you grew inside my body and fed from my breasts for the first year of your lives. Does it matter to either of you that I was the one who nurtured and raised you mostly on my own when you were babies? Did that ever matter to you while you were running off with Winley, or when you married Denby and never bothered to tell us of either marriage, Or when you moved from state to state? Darling, Pamela cooed. Surely that's all in the past, isn't it? We're all adults now, and can let it all rest. Besides, I wanted to speak to you on an important, private matter, because I'm sure she didn't bring it up. Nicola did tell me what you want, and the answer is no. Nick, is she staying? I shook my head. I still don't want her here. Timothy's eyes went to Pamela. You've overstayed your unwelcome. Please go. He stepped aside and pointed to the door.
Now.
Pamela stared at me. You know, there is no need to be petty. I made mistakes, who doesn't? Still, that doesn't mean that I can't sit in the church and watch you make the biggest mistake of your life, while you still think it's a good idea. You're happy, I can see that, so why not allow me to watch this catastrophe unfold? If I'm wrong, and the marriage lasts, wouldn't you like to throw it in my face at a family dinner? Maggie murmured. Ooh, no, she didn't. Mailing screeched. Yes, she did. I looked right into Pamela's eyes and said, when would that happen? While you sat at Dan's table, ignoring his children because of the color of his skin. What makes you think that I would ever allow you to break bread in our home, knowing how you feel about people who are darker than the tans you like to achieve? Pamela exhaled with, well, disrespect appears to be contagious. Her lips tightened, and her composure slipped for a moment before she recovered. Her voice trembled with a mix of defensiveness and something softer, regret, maybe, though I couldn't be sure. And I didn't care. That was unfair, Nicola. You don't understand what I went through with Frank, then Cole, or how complicated it all was with both of them. But, as usual, you just want someone to blame, and you've both chosen me. Pamela appeared to be searching for an answer she couldn't quite shape. The tension in the air was thick, almost suffocating, but she refused to look away. People change, Nicola. Maybe not enough, maybe not fast enough, but I'd like to think I can do better. I want to try if you'll let me. I shook my head.
No.
I can't let you into my life with your beliefs, and I have no reason to believe that you wouldn't apply every insult that came to mind. My children will not have your prejudices in their ears. Pamela scoffed. Choosing a man over your mother. How typical of the young women these days. I doubt that Dantrell would do the same when it came to his mother. Don't call me when he's screwing around while you try to silence all the children you foolishly birthed. Timothy, frustrated and defensive, blurted out, like the way you were screwing Winley in the back of his car, and it only came to light when the police arrested both of you for public indecency? Tell me, Pamela, how long were you going to continue screwing Dad and Winley simultaneously? Pamela stood silently, her eyes locked on Timothy as the tension thickened. The decades of resentment between them crackled in the air, demanding resolution. Without warning, Pamela's hand raised, and the crack of her palm against Timothy's cheek echoed in the quiet space, leaving him stunned. For a moment, neither spoke. Pamela's eyes shimmered with tears. Timothy's face flushed with shock and anger, and I rushed forward, ready to retaliate for him, but Lisa moved faster and smacked Pamela with everything she had. Pamela stumbled back, holding her cheek, and when she righted herself, she glared at Lisa with astonishment, but it quickly morphed into outrage. The room seemed to tremble with the energy of the confrontation, each breath heavy and strained. Lisa stood her ground, eyes blazing, and all stayed silent. I watched Pamela, wondering if she would retaliate or flee. Don't you ever touch him again, Lisa commanded, red and furious. Or you'll get worse, I promise. Pamela smoothed her gown. I see. Well, I take it you're dating my son. At least he knows white is the right way to go. Timothy, gripping Lisa's arms from behind her, successfully keeping her from striking the woman again, informed, This is Lisa Jennings, my fiancée, who has an African-American mother. She's fair because her father's Caucasian. I don't care about her parentage. I fell in love with her heart. You will not be invited to our wedding either. Harry, call security and get this unwanted person out of here so my sister can continue getting ready for her wedding. The guards arrived quickly, and a defiant Pamela was ushered out at Timothy's command. I sank into my chair and breathed while listening to everyone's calming words. I'm sorry, Lisa cried, with Timothy holding her. But I just could not let him risk going to jail by hitting her back. Mother or not, she deserved a good one, after all she said about Dan and what she did to you both. I whispered, hugging my best friend. Thank you for having his back and always having mine. After we calmed, Timothy said he would tell Dantrell the cause of the delay. I asked, please assure him that I think nothing of or like that woman. Timothy smiled. He knows, Nick. The rest of the day went off without a hitch. The ceremony was emotional, and the reception was lively and fun. When I returned to work after our exciting honeymoon, Timothy called me into his office. Smiling, I said, You summoned, boss? Funny, sis. Timothy stood and rushed to hug me. You look well and tan, Nick. I trust you had a good time in Italy. The best, I grinned. We may go back for our first anniversary. Consider it for your honeymoon, Tim. It's nothing but beautiful, romantic fun. Timothy laughed and nodded. I'll discuss it with Lisa. He turned me, and I smiled at the older man hovering in the corner with a bottle of water in his trembling hand. His neatly combed hair was mostly gray, and his brownish eyes, so like mine, filled with tears as he stared at me. I noticed his new, clean jeans, blue button-up shirt, and tan shoes, and wondered why he was in my brother's office. You look wonderful, he said, slowly placing the bottle on the cart. And you were right to leave. California agrees with you, Nicola, and I hope to meet your husband soon. I stared at my father and asked, He's African-American. Are you sure you want to meet him? Of course. Frank Malone frowned. Why would that matter to me? Look, Timothy told me what your mother said, and I'll tell you like I told him. Skin doesn't matter to me. If he loves you and treats you well, then that's all I need. I don't know why she thought otherwise, but I will admit that after thinking on it, I can recall her saying and acting in peculiar ways toward those darker than her. I've never had that problem. I nodded. Are you sober? He pulled out a chip and held it between his thumb and finger. I entered rehab the day you left. I slipped once since, but never again. I only have water and sodas now. Maybe a juice now and then, but I'm seeing a woman who has introduced me to kombucha. Some are pretty good. Timothy and I looked at each other and laughed. I explained to my confused father. I said something similar to Timothy when I arrived here, Dad. I hope that I can introduce you to my favorite soon. I'd like that. I hugged him. We had dinner that night at Timothy's home, and I learned that Dad and his fiancée, Marion, had moved in with him while I was away. Dad was sad he missed my wedding, but Timothy said he'd be front and center at his wedding with Lisa. When Timothy returned from his honeymoon, Dad married Marion, and Timothy and Lisa insisted there was plenty of room for all of them in the mansion. We hadn't heard from Pamela, mainly because Timothy gave her $20,000, far less than what she was seeking, and told her that was all she was ever getting. Pamela was going to have to earn however much more she wanted. 6 months later, we welcomed a little girl. Ashlyn Denise was a beauty from birth, and I felt blessed to have her enter my life. I was thankful that I found the courage to leave my old life behind and hoped that my daughter, my future children, would always know love and happiness in every day of their lives, and that they had a wonderful support system, like I now had in Dantrell, his mom Anna, Timothy, Lisa, Dad, and Marion. Together, we flourished as a family, helping in any way we could to further Timothy's company and care for one another like a family should. Our future looked bright and loving, and I couldn't ask for anything more.